Hi, students, and welcome to Computerized Accounting, Accounting 1115. In this video, we're going to be going over Chapter 7, Payroll. And in this video, we're going to be going over the steps. We're going to be using the test drive mode. Again, this will assist you in being able to do your homework assignments for Chapter 7, your Case 1 and your Case 2 homework assignments. So make sure you review the video and follow along in your textbook. So the learning outcomes for this chapter is be able to add new employees, add payroll-related general ledger accounts, and then pay employees and record the payroll expenses and liabilities. Okay, so I've already switched view. So now what we're looking at is we are looking at Blackboard so that we can access our test drive module. And of course, there's a link right here. You just click on this link. This link will take you to your textbook from via online. And this link right here will take you to your test drive. I do recommend you open up your ebook. You follow the steps in test drive to give you the practice that you'll need, because this again will help you with your homework. So this is, I very much recommend you do this. And each section of the Chapter 7 covers a section that's on your homework. So there's not going to be anything asking you of your homework new that is not covered in this section of your book. So make sure you follow through. All right, so we're going to go ahead and open up test drive. Yes, we're not a robot. All right, so we are in our sample company. Now again, Intuit's provided this sample company online, and it's to let us new users test drive its QuickBooks Online product. So in this chapter, you will open this sample company and practice payroll activities in QuickBooks Online. QuickBooks Online Payroll is an add-on feature to QuickBooks Online. You can use a trial version of QuickBooks Online Payroll, but it only lasts for 30 days. So even though the payroll feature is available in QuickBooks Payroll are extensive and helpful, they focus on real companies and real time frames. So this chapter will focus on the creation of new employees, general ledger accounts, and payments to employees without the use of QuickBooks Online Payroll. So if you are prompted to make a purchase, just decline, because there's no need to make a purchase to be able to do your assignment. Now remember, if you stop in the middle of this work, none of your work is saved in the sample company. Okay, so when you return, the same sample company without your work will appear. So in some parts of the chapter, you'll be asked to sign out of the sample company and then sign back in. So the sample company is reset to its original state. So in the end of this chapter, you'll be asked to perform the same tasks completed on the sample company on your student company. So that work, of course, will be saved when you do it on your company. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about employees. So in the first section of your textbook, you'll be adding a new employee to QuickBooks Online. So how do we add a new employee? To add a new employee, first we have to open up test drive, which we've already done. All right, so we can come over here and go to payroll and click employees. All right. So to add a new employee, you just simply click on add an employee. So of course, it's going to ask you if you want to pay employees, blah, 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 turn on payroll. Just click not right now. So you go ahead and click not right now. All right, so now following the instructions of the book, we're going to enter a new employee, and they provided us with this information. The first name is May. Last name is West, and it gives us an address. So we'll just come down here to address. So it says, so it automatically updates the display name and it displays it as May West. All right, her address is 2393 Ridge Place, number 3. And they have her in Rancho Mar. California, with zip code 93154. All right, now it's asking, tells us to go ahead and put in her employee ID number, and it provides that. And our employee ID number is 178. Okay, so once it's done, all right, you can click save. You don't have to add anything else at this point, but things you can add is, of course, you can put their gender in, you can put their hourly rate, contact information such as a phone number or a cell phone number, hire date, date of birth. So lots of information you can add, but just for the sake of the purposes of this chapter, this is all the information we're going to add at this time. So we can go ahead and click save. All right, so now we have our other two employees, Emily and John, and our new employee that we just added, May West. Next thing we're going to talk about is payroll accounts. So once again, we're using QuickBooks Payroll Online. General ledger accounts to capture payroll information would be created for you in the setup process. However, since you are using QuickBooks Payroll Online, you will have to create them on your own. Okay, so to keep things simple, you can create the minimum of 2 accounts for payroll, which is your payroll expense and your payroll tax payable, which is a liability. An employer agrees to pay its employees a salary per month or an hourly rate. In either case, for the agreed upon salary or hourly rate times hours worked, amounts are recorded to the payroll expense account. Now, depending on the state, employees are often required to have an estimate amount of federal and state income taxes withheld from their paychecks by their employers. In addition, employers must withhold Social Security and Medicare. All right, amounts withheld from employees will be recorded in the payroll tax payable account until remitted to the U.S. Treasury and state government entities. Employers also must match those amounts for the Social Security and Medicare taxes. So anybody who has taken accounting for payroll or accounting for individual tax or business tax. We discussed that some of the taxes that are withheld, the employer is also required to match, and Social Security and Medicare are 2 taxes that we are required to match. Right, these are actually expenses to the employer. So the amounts that we're required to match actually don't go against the tax liability account, but they actually are considered a payroll expense. So these matching costs will be recorded as additional payroll expense. All right, so to add payroll related accounts to our sample company, we're going to go up here to our gear icon right here at the top of the screen. And we are going to click chart of accounts. Now, this is one way to access chart of accounts. Just for the sake of education, you can also come down here to accounting and also select chart of accounts. So there's 2 ways you can access your chart of accounts, and both will take you to the exact same place. All right, but we're going to follow the instructions out of the book, and we're going to click on the gear icon, and we're going to click on chart of accounts. All right. So go ahead and click on the see your chart of accounts. Now we're adding some new accounts. So we're going to come over here, we're going to click the new button. All right, now the account type, the first one we're going to add is our payroll expense. So the account type we're going to add is expense. So we're going to hit the drop down menu and we're going to look for expenses and click on expenses. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to look for the detail type. And what we're looking for here under expenses is specifically payroll expenses. So we're going to click payroll expenses. Now, not payroll tax expenses. We're just going for payroll expenses. All right. And for the name, we're going to change the name to payroll. All right. So once we have that done, you can hit save and close, but we still have another account we're going to add. We're going to add the liability account for the taxes. So let's change save and close to save and new, and go ahead and click save and new. All right, so for the payroll tax liability account, we're going to look for other current liabilities. Now it's considered a current liability because you should never carry this liability on your books for longer than a month, because you should be paying your employees a minimum of once a month. So that's why this is considered a current liability. The detailed type we're going to look for, we are going to look for payroll tax payable right here. All right. And we can keep the name payroll tax payable, so we don't need to change it. And now we can change it to save and close, because we're only adding those two accounts. So we've added both of those accounts. Let's go on to the next section. The next section is talking about they want us to pay our employees. So the payment of employees requires gathering information from each employee that helps determine withholding amounts and payroll expenses. So the federal and state governments provide formulas and/or tables to help employers calculate these amounts. So in this text, you will be provided these amounts. Additional taxes such as training, unemployment, and so on are ignored for this illustration. Okay. So since payroll is a recurring event, it will help to make these checks reoccur, which can be edited for each payroll for changes in hours worked where applicable. So in this example, payroll is paid twice a month, semi-monthly. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here. To get started, we're going to click on the plus due icon, and we're going to select check. All right, so we're creating a payment for employee. All right, so we're going to select our employee's name from our payee drop down. All right, so we are actually going to be paying our employee named Emily. So we can either scroll and look for Emily, or we can start typing in her name. And there it is, it pops up right there, and see she's listed as an employee. All right. All right, so we're not going to change the payment date or the check number, because again, in QuickBooks, this information is automatically updated for you, so you don't have to change anything. So we're going to assume that we're doing this as we would in QuickBooks Online. So the payment date would be the day you're paying her, and it's going to automatically update to the next check number, so we shouldn't have to change that either. So we're going to leave all that as is. And we're going to go ahead and go down to category. And in the first column under category, we're going to hit that drop down menu. And we're going to look for that expense account we created titled payroll. All right, so I just typed in the word P and payroll popped up. So we're going to go ahead and hit that. You could add a description if necessary. You could say, payment and with the date, etc., for the which days this payment is, whatever is necessary. But for the sake of this illustration, we're just going to skip over to the amount. Now, the amount in the book says we're paying her $2,500, so we're going to put in $2,500. Now, under the next one, on line 2 for category, now we're going to put in the liability. Okay, so let's hit pay. And we're looking for our liability. So we're going to put in payroll tax payable. Tab over to amount. And we're going to type with a negative. Hold on. Okay, so we're going to type in the amount $533.75. All right, but we're going to make sure that there is this is a negative number. So we're going to put in a negative sign in front of the amount. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead and go down to line 3. and click on our drop down menu. And here we're going to be entering the payroll expense for the Social Security and the Medicare. So again, we're going to select payroll expense. All right, so why are we selecting payroll expense for this one? All right, so again, if you remember correctly, Medicare and Social Security are taxes that are withheld from the employee, but the employer is also required to match that. All right, so the portion that we match is an actual payroll expense and not a tax liability. So the portion we're matching, we're going to record to the payroll expense account, and they give us the amount. The amount is of Social Security and Medicare taxes that we're matching is $191.25. All right. Now we also have to record the portion that was withheld. So this is her actual amount of payroll that we're recording as her salary. This is the amount of federal tax withholding, right, that we're recording to our payroll tax liability account. This is the amount of Social Security and Medicare that we are matching as an employer. And this last line is going to be the amount of tax and payroll tax and liability we're going to withhold from her paycheck. So again, we're going to select payroll tax liability for line 4. And just like we did for the federal taxes on line 2, we're going to hit a negative. And the amounts is the same because we're matching it. So it's going to be negative $191.25. So if everything was done correctly, the total should be $1,966.25. This should be the amount that we actually are going to be paying our employee. All right, so also, since our employees are paid semi-monthly, it's probably beneficial to make this a reoccurring check. So we're going to go down here at the bottom of the screen where it says make reoccurring. We're going to click on this at the bottom of the screen. All right, so the type, we're going to go ahead and select unscheduled. So unscheduled transactions don't have timetables, and you can use them as needed from the recurring transaction list, okay? That's so that we can change and update the amounts so that maybe if her hours were different, her pay would be different. So we want to be able to change that. Okay, so go down here at the bottom of the screen, and we're going to go ahead and click Save Template. So a reoccurring check is saved. All right, now we've saved the template. Now we want to use the template, okay? So how do we find the template we just saved so that we can use it? Let's go up to the gear icon and click on it. And we're going to come down here under List and select Reoccurring Transactions. Okay, and there's our template that we just saved. All right, so we're going to come over here and we're going to go ahead and click Use because we're going to use the template. All right, and it brings it up. So the check window will appear again, completed just like we did earlier. So, all right, so we've pulled up the template and we're going to go ahead and create an actual paycheck. So we're going to come down here and we're going to click Save and New. All right, so now check number 71 has been saved. So now we can actually From there, when it's payroll time, we will go and actually print that check. All right, but we click Save and New. Why do we click Save and New? Well, we have two other employees. We have John and May. So if you go in your textbook, you're going to look for figure 7.4. All right, and 7.4 is something very similar to what probably would be used to generate payroll. It is the list of each employee, number of hours applicable, their annual salary or their hourly rate, what their gross pay is, their federal withholding, their Social Security and Medicare employee withholding, and then of course the employer payroll tax expense and what their net check amount should be. All right, so looking at the table for figure 7.4, let's start with John first. Okay, so the payee we're going to enter is John. All right, so we have two Johns, one's a customer and one's an employee. So we're going to click on the John Johnson that's an employee. Now, if you look over here, it's already updated the check number, so we don't have to do anything there. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to enter their gross pay. All right, so let's click on the drop-down menu, and we're going to type in the word payroll, and we're going to select payroll expense. And we're going to come over here and enter their gross pay. So John's gross pay is $1,440. All right. On the next line, we're going to go ahead and enter their payroll tax liability. So we're going over here and find payroll tax liability. So this is their federal tax withholding, and their federal withholding do some math, so just hold one moment, pause recording for just a second. Their total federal withholding is going to be their federal withholding, Social Security, and Medicare. All right, so John's total withholding equals $307.44. All right, so we're going to come down to line 3. In line 3, we're going to enter the payroll expense for the employer's withholding. So we'll go ahead and enter payroll again, but this time we're selecting payroll expense. And we're going to enter in the amount $110.16. This is the employer payroll tax expense. And we're going to enter in the liability for it. So let's enter payroll tax liability for this withholding portion. All right. So our total net check amount should be $1,132.56. All right. So once this is done, we can go ahead and click Save and New. All right, so now check number 72 is saved. So the next employee, that we're going to enter is May. So we're going to continue using figure 7.4 in our textbook, and we're going to enter the amounts for May. So let's type in May, and there's our new employee that we just added, May West. All right, okay, so we're going to come down here, and we're going to enter our payroll expense for May. So here we go, payroll expense. And her gross pay is $1,080. All right, now we got to enter that withholding for her. So we're going to enter pay again. We're going to select payroll tax liability. Remember to put that negative. So her total employee withholding amount is $230.58. All right. Well, lastly, we have to now enter the portion that is the employer's withholding that we match, and that's the Medicare and Social Security taxes that we withhold for the employee. We have to match it. So we have to The portion that we match, we have to first record as an expense. So let's record that payroll expense for the Social Security and Medicare portion that we're matching. And that is a total of $82.62. And we also have to record that liability. Now, you may be asking yourself, why are we also recording the liability for the expense? Well, once that check is cut and printed, then for the employee, we also have to make a payment to the federal agency for the withholding. So that, we have to make the actual payment to those places. So we have to make a payment. So once we pay the amount that we withheld, once we pay it to that federal and that state agency, then it's no longer a payable, it's taken out of payable and reduces our actual cash. So that's a whole different set of payments. So anything that was withheld, whether it's withheld from the employee or it's the portion that we're matching, it's created set up as a payable until we pay that federal and state agency for those amounts that we withheld. So we're setting up our payable for our portion as employer that we withheld, and it can stay as a payable until we pay it to that federal or state agency. All right, so once we get that entered, your net check amount should be $849.42. So once we get May's information entered, we can go ahead and click Save and Close. All right, so we have now created 3 paychecks. We went ahead and entered their gross amount, how much is being withheld, and we also included our portion that we're matching as an employer. So when we go to pay all the amounts that we withheld, they're all set up in a payable. All right, so that is it. That is all we're going to cover in Chapter 5 for payroll. So watch this video as many times as you need to. Follow along in your textbook. These are going to be help you with your homework and how to do your homework problems. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Thank you, guys.